So, this is Editing Zach. So I recorded much more of what you're about to see than actually was usable, because a lot of things went wrong, and I wasn't there to catch any of them because I was recording. There's about this next 9 minutes and 45 seconds, is the tail end. It's a little less than that, but it's around 8, 9 minutes. Um, is the tail end of the podcast I recorded, and so you get to see that. I'm hopefully gonna do the same topic again, hopefully more people, because it's a really good topic and I want to get the full thing out there, but I have 9 minutes that's really good, except the headspace is off and the audio is wrong, and there's issues with it still, but it's usable-ish, and then hopefully I'll be able to do the same thing but better soon. So I hope you enjoy, and yeah, thanks for clicking on the video in the first place. So my next question is, so once you've hit that phase of you have your friendship squared away, your relationships are clearly defined, and you know sort of where you stand, where someone else stands on issues and stuff like that, and these are the deep, like, core 3 or 4 people in your life. What is the power of friendship? What is the call and response of your friend group, and how can you sort of use that? How do friendships fuel what you do, essentially? What is that extra drive that it gives you?
Yeah. And the power of friendship. I've realized that we are just created to be relational human beings. Like, ever since birth, we have a relationship with our mother, right? Who feeds us, and our father who feeds us as well, right? But takes care of us. So we're naturally dependent on another person at birth, right? And then as you grow up in your early childhood, when you go hang out with your friends, it's like the best thing ever. Like, when you can when you're 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, and you see your best friend or your friends that you hang out with, it's like, man, stuff's about to go down. We're gonna have the best time ever. Yeah. So we don't know that at first, like, psychologically, how important that is, but there's just something about the relationships that we have as human beings that helps us get through things in life, like later on in life as well. And you establishing relationships, you can go to people and talk. Like, how many of us feel so much better after we talk to a friend about things that we're going through, something that we need to get off of our chest? There's so much power in somebody that listens, and that you can have face to face, and that is empathizing with what you're going through. Or somebody that you have a specific goal to reach, and somebody's with you fighting through it to reach their specific goal too. That's why teams are so amazing. Yeah. That's why, like, sports teams or engineering teams, it could be anything. Like, video game teams, like, people working together to reach a common goal. There's something that you can't do by yourself, that being in a group of people, like, can accomplish it way faster, because you have strengths that I don't have, and I have strengths that you don't have, but us together can be something pretty awesome and amazing, because you can use your strengths to accomplish something, and I can use my strengths to accomplish something when we couldn't accomplish that thing by ourselves. So there's a plethora of just dynamics of friendships that you will have in life, that you have to realize how important those people are to you, and the more you place value in your friendships, the more you're going to, I guess, receive just the genuine love that you can get through different kinds of relationships with people.
Yeah, so I guess this will be the final question, sort of thought to go through is how do you know when you've entered that stage of synergy, I guess? That area where how do you know once you've gotten your inner circle of people, and how do you know when, sort of when people graduate into that circle? Because it happens and you can sort of intuit and know, like, these are my best friends, but what are the indicators of that?
Yeah, I would say it's cool because there have been times in my life where I could meet somebody right on the spot and know exactly in that moment this person's going to be either just somebody for a season in my life or a lifelong friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this connection that I think you have intuitively with somebody.
Okay.
And I think a big sign of that is laughter, joking. Like you're already creating like inside jokes with each other within like the first couple of days of just being around each other.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like your personalities kind of just bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
Like that is a sign of somebody who's really going to be in your life for the long run. Somebody who's going to that you relate with, that you can just create that, like that synergy, there's no real effort in it, it just happens. It's like a natural, okay, this person, like, he's like on my level, like we think the same way, and we share a lot of common things. Not everything's in common, but there's just that energy there where it's like, okay.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the other things is you can correct them. I think that's one of the really staple parts in a relationship is you know that if you see someone doing a mistake you've made before or a mistake you know sort of the outcome of and can predict, you know that you can tell that person what mistake they're making and ask them to stop, and it won't end the friendship. Because a lot of the times when you correct a friend and your friendship is done at that point, that's how you sort of know that that wasn't a healthy friendship to begin with, because it's uneven. You're not sharpening each other. You're not really... if you don't butt heads every once in a while over topics and come out of it again as friends, it really isn't gonna be a good friendship if you're afraid to correct them. Because at that point, that can become an emotional burden. If you always want to be friends with this person and always checking what you say and how you act around them to try and stay friends with them. Because that's you, again, just putting on that mask of who you are and just covering up yourself to try and be what you think they want you to be, which is never what you want to do in a friendship. It happens, like, I see that most commonly happen when you're an acquaintance with someone, where you'll sort of mask who you are and slowly reveal yourself over time, and then that goes into friendship. But I would say if you really want to know, just stop and see how that person reacts to who you really are. Now, how you show you really are is a different question, but we don't have time for that now.
Well, that reminded me of a verse that you were like what you were saying reminded me of this verse that the blows of a friend, faithful are the blows of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to recognize that a true friend is going to, like, when he tells you the truth, it's going to hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
And an enemy of yours is always going to want to, like, tell you all the good stuff and kiss you, like figuratively kiss you, like, and just be like, oh, everything's all good, like, it's all good, man, like, you're good. But a real friend's going to get in your face and, like, tell you how it is. Yeah. In a respectful way, but just like, those are the people that care most about you in your life. The enemies will always try to, like, you'll recognize it, but you have to have the conscious to, like, understand when that's fake or not. Yeah.
You did. Okay, cool. And clap sync again. All right. So, how do you approach that sort of space where you're throwing that surprise party and you have a group me, and you're trying to get everyone but this one person in the group.
Okay.
So you're DMing just all of the other people
Right.
except the person in the group trying to arrange this. How do you, when you're texting all of the girls that are now in that group, how do you make that come across in a way that isn't you trying to hit on them, essentially?
Yeah.
Because I think the way texting works, since there's no emphasis on anything, you can't stress a point like you can when you're talking to them, and it's weird to call them. How do you do that in that texting environment to let them know, hey, this isn't what I'm meaning to do, without saying, hey, this isn't what I'm meaning to do?
Right.
In a perfectly, you know your intentions.
Yeah.
So that's not the issue, but it's how do you do that and let them know your intention clearly?
I would say make your intention clear, like the first sentence, say, hey, what's going on, Ashley, right? Like I say her name.
Yeah.
But hey, what's going on, Ashley? I am so-and-so, I'm Mike's friend.
Yeah.
And we're throwing a surprise party for him. And I want to get all his friends in on this. And I wanted to invite you out to that as well.
Okay.
Invite you into this. So it's just sending an invite.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because I think a lot of people I know stress out about texting girls they know. Because I know a lot of friends who are like, I like this girl as a friend, and I feel weird if I'm texting them with my friends because they'll read it differently, even though we understand the relationship. So that's the next level of it. But I feel like that really helps is just clarifying between each other, this is our relationship.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of miscommunication that can go on. Like, for example, say one of my, no, that's a bad example. I was about to go, say I'm at a bar, and no, I'm probably not going to be there anytime soon. Maybe in 4 or 5 years. But let's just move on from that. Let's go to the age gap. So say you are building a relationship with someone in their 40s or 50s who's used to calling more than texting all the time. How do you approach building a relationship with that person differently from how you would approach a relationship with someone who's 20, 22, something like that? Because it's a different mindset you're talking about, and you can learn a lot from people who are older. It's a great resource to have. Parents are amazing resources to have to learn about life and to be trained in. So how do you approach intentionally building a relationship with someone who's disconnected from the way you normally communicate?
Yeah, so I actually have an example of this. There was a guy who was 50 years old almost in one of my college classes, and he saw me in the front of the class one time. He sat in the back. He came up to me after class one time, and this was my first year at JMU when this happened, and he's like, man, I see the cross that you have on your chest, and he was drawn to that, and he was like, it's really cool that you're representing Jesus and whatever. And I was like, yeah, man, what's your name? So I started talking to him for a little bit, and we ended up exchanging numbers. And this guy, he would call me. And so I had to adjust. And I think it's honestly putting yourself in humility and saying, okay, if they don't know how to communicate the way I'm really comfortable with my generation, and he is more comfortable with calling me and having conversations, then hey, I'm going to have to adjust to that. Because if I truly want to build a relationship with somebody who's way older than me and then who's not really so familiar with the texting age that we're in or anything else, like Marco Polo's and other things like video messages or FaceTime, it's more so just calling, then I'm gonna answer the calls and I'm gonna talk to them over the phone. It helps me build communication skills as well. Yeah. And I actually like talking on the phone more than texting. Texting for me now is more so just if I need a quick meeting that I'm setting up or something that's not too important. But I'd call just to have conversations with people I haven't talked to in a while. Yeah. I have friends that are in my life and I, haven't talked to in a few months, I'll give them a call just so I can have a more intimate conversation, that we don't have to just have a surface level relationship over text message.
Yeah.
Like on the phone, you really hear the person's voice.
Yeah.
It's quicker, and yeah, it's totally like, I think it's totally cool to just adjust to that.
Well, and like the thing I like about calling is that you get to emphasize things. Like, for example, there's a difference where if I type, I'm excited to see you soon, or whatever. You can call them and say that, and you can emphasize the words better so they can tell. They can tell how excited you are if you say it to them than if you text it to them.
Exactly.
It's sort of like texting the letter K versus OK. It makes just a huge difference in how the person receives it. Because K normally is like, they don't have enough time for this conversation, is how I feel sometimes if someone just goes K. But just going with the full word, even if it's not any more time because it's already in your suggested words or whatever, it's still that much more meaningful to just type the full word. And so I want to get into next. We've been talking about how you build that outer circle of friends. How do you sort of vet your friends process and really get into a deep relationship with those one or two people? How do you manage that? So for example, if you're married to one of the people and you have two other friends, how do you approach handling those relationships differently? Because obviously the one person you're married to, you're going to be interacting with probably more than the other two people. So how do you sort of take those relationships and convey the value that you hold in them authentically without giving people the wrong message? Because if you're in a deep relationship with someone, say I have a wife, but I have this really, really good lady friend of mine that I met a long time ago, and we do talk together sometimes, but my wife is always there now. That's how I would do it, is always, if you're really good friends with another girl, make sure the person you're married to is there and also friends with that girl.
Yeah.
Because if not, that's really hard to balance.
Yeah.
But if you're in that situation, how do you convey your sort of platonic relationship with the one person versus your marital relation with the other one authentically? How do you sort of get that road straight?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, your wife would have to be the most important person, and you would have to be in communication with her about it for sure. And then also I would say check your own heart. Like, even though this is a female friend you've had for years, it's like, okay, I understand that, but at the same time, your wife is your wife.
Yeah.
And you have to know, like, I would say the communication with your wife would be most important, because understanding where she's coming from. If she says, hey, I don't feel comfortable with you talking to her on the phone like you do, you have to lovingly, you have to say, okay, like, I'm going to respect you more because you're my wife.
Yeah.
Rather than continue on with this relationship. Because at the end of the day, she's the one who's going to be there with you and who's like totally there every day. So some relationships have to be cut off, or at least put a boundary. And I mean, but if she's cool with it and she's like, yeah, totally, like, I see you, I would still say be cautious. Because
well, there's a lot that can go wrong in that type of relationship, because you're inadvertently creating a love triangle from the outside appearance. Yeah,
because you could emotionally be there for somebody, and there's also this thing called emotionally cheating.
Yeah.
So you may physically not cheat on your wife, but emotionally, this other woman is pouring herself like emotionally on you, and you're being there for her. There's like this connection, this soul tie that's happening, where your wife isn't like. Yeah. You get what I mean?
I think I get what you're saying. Where you're basically, because that's the relationship you would have with your wife, is your emotional supports to each other, as well as financial and physical supports to each other when the time calls. So when you're doing that emotional support to another woman, especially, that's that sort of cheating on it, because you're doing something you would normally do only with your wife with another person. So I think it would be it'd be interesting to figure out how that could happen. Well, figure out how to do that well.
Yeah.
Because it's a weird situation, but I'd say it can be done. Just be very cautious about it. And normally that doesn't happen. Normally that happens pretty gradually. Those friendships will just drift to where they'll stabilize to where they're supposed to be once people get married, but there's a lot of relationship changes when that happens.
And that's not even anything religious either.
Yeah.
Like, that's not even like you, like, just because we're Christians. It's like, you are going to create problems in your relationship with your wife if there's another female that is like getting the attention regardless. That's just the way it works. Unless this relationship, for some reason, is an open relationship and there's no problems, I would say like you would have, like, both of you have to come in agreement about something.
Well, and I would say get that established in the dating phase of your relationship, because you don't want, basically, this is the thing that probably happens the most often that you don't want to happen, is you'll get married and then she'll realize how much you talk and call to that other person because she hasn't been living with you before most of the time. In a Christian relationship, that's probably not how it would work. But it can work that time, as sometimes people do that. But you want to be able to sort of analyze your own friendships and go, okay, if I were married to this person, what would they need to know about my other relationships, and what would I want to know about their other relationships? Just so when and I would do this once you're engaged. I wouldn't do this while you're still thinking about it, because it's a lot to share, and you would